Hello, everybody. Welcome, participants. Thank you for joining Amplify and Innovate, the webinar about harnessing the power of community and AI. My name is Valeria Ballaro. I'm a VP of Marketing here at Star, and I will be your host for today. Today, we'll focus on AI, Metaverse, and Web3, and discuss how these technologies create new ways of reaching communities and new customer segments, and how brands and advertisers can benefit by curating cohesive ad journeys across these experimental channels. We will make a focus on AI and see how it can drive real business outcomes in advertising and marketing industries, and what the agencies can do to adapt it successfully. Here we have three panelists with us today. I would like to welcome you all and give you a little introduction. So first of all, we have Oliver Feldwick, who is Head of Innovation at The Ant Partnership. As a semi-retired gamer, he spends a lot of his time in metaverse-like experiences playing Fortnite. He's also a big AI enthusiast, writing about AI ethics and building the cyber agency of the future for the past 4 or 5 years. He's cautiously optimistic about the kind of transformation that AI can bring. We have Konstantin Burkovtsev, who is a senior product manager at Star. Konstantin is a seasoned professional in ad tech with focus on the intersection of AI and advertising. He has a successful track record of developing and managing DSP and SSP platforms, as well as a unified media platform that he's building for one of the top 5 advertising houses globally. Konstantin is known for his ability to transform the agency work and revolutionize large-scale advertising execution. And last but not least, we have Stephen Noble, who is a business development director here at Star. Stephen has got considerable experience in the media industry, with a large part of his career spent within agency networks, including Mindshare and Group M. He has worked with clients across verticals in the planning and activation of advertising campaigns before moving into media investment roles at both an agency and group level. With his experience of agency operations in the programmatic space, Stephen is an expert in the development of AdTech, MarTech solutions within the digital marketplace. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. I'm looking forward to our discussion. We have got a packed agenda today, but we will do our best to leave some time for audience Q&A at the end. You can contribute your questions at any time using the Q&A functionality in the webinar. In case we don't get the opportunity to address some of your questions in today's webinar, we will get them answered by all of our experts and circulate a Q&A doc with you as a follow-up. Right, without further ado, I would love to jump straight in. I think we have got a fantastic agenda today and fantastic speakers. So first of all, we're going to focus a little bit on discussing the power of community and how these platforms like Metaverse and Web3 can foster those communities. So Oliver, my first question is going to be to you. Over the last couple of years, there's been a growing shift in consumer expectations for brands to be purpose-led and using their influencing and economic powers to drive local impact and social good. We saw some really good examples recently with Patagonia's founder giving the company a way to fight climate crisis, and then also the rise of big campaigns locally, such as This Girl Can here in the UK, for example. Do you feel that this is something that is still top of mind today? And are consumers still looking for the social impact even now when buying behaviors are changing due to inflation, cost of living crisis?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been a trend in the background, and purpose has always been, one of the many motivations. And I think the role of purpose kind of changes with the climate and the environment around it. So I think what we see as the cost of living crisis settles in, and as we sort of reel a little bit from crisis to crisis, and you get this sort of sense of multi-crises or perma-crisis, people's focus tends to shift. And I think people are shifting to going, what's more tangible, sometimes sort of narrower, more sort of community-based and local things are really relevant and things that people are turning their attention to. And I think people are more not skeptical, but they want to show that it's not just being done for the awareness and attention, it's actually meaningful impact. And I think people are getting wise to very performative kind of greenwashing or purpose washing. And I think people are really happy to have, brands where it's baked into what they do and it has, meaning and substance. So I think which is all a good thing. I think we're going to have perhaps fewer big performative global things, but I think we're going to have lots more meaningful local things. And there's the shift in the way that people use community channels and platforms, I think also kind of reflects that. I think people's circles when times are tough kind of get a bit smaller, and that shift in focus and shift of attention is something that brands should be aware of and kind of reflect as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fantastic, thank you. In last year, in 2022, IAB did a survey of ad buyers, and that concluded that 56% of buyers were already investing or considering investing in metaverse advertising. This year, of course, generative AI has completely overshadowed metaverse in the media, and we don't hear the buzz around metaverse any longer. But wanted to address this one to you, Konstantin. Is metaverse even there still? And is there still opportunity for this channel to give access to communities and amplify their voices?
Well, definitely. I think the metaverse is still around, and it's a great channel for brands to connect with communities and amplify their voices. Even though generative AI has been hogging the limelight lately, it doesn't mean that metaverse has lost its mojo. It offers these amazing immersive experiences and interconnected virtual worlds that can really captivate the audience in coolest ways. Brands can create interactive and personalized experiences that truly resonates with their target communities still. So even if the media buzz has shifted, the metaverse is still exciting space where brands can deepen their connections with their audience and customers to achieve still awesome business outcomes that cannot achieve in other channels. And I still believe that it's a prime opportunity to make a splash and create something new and unforgettable for clients.
Nice, thank you. Stephen, do you have anything to add to this, any views?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with Konstantin. I think the metaverse certainly gives access to communities to amplify the voices. And a space where social causes can be driven. So Heinz, I think, is a really good example of a brand engaging with its communities through the release of a new game in the multiplayer game, Fortnite, which obviously Oliver will be very well aware of. And they're doing this in a bid to educate gamers on the degradation of soil on Earth. So the intention of the campaign itself is to educate. They picked a target audience of 18 to 34-year-olds on the decline of soil health across the world. And this will promote sustainable actions and practices. So to talk about the game itself will enable players to experience tomato growth. Don't know if you've ever tried to grow a tomato, but tomato growth, witnessing sort of greenhouse methods of growing and the growth of sort of mature tomato plants. So players will also be challenged to run faster than the speed of soil degradation to highlight the rate at which the sort of health of the soil is degrading. So I suppose in all, by tapping into popular culture, which Heinz are doing here within the metaverse, they can actually connect with audiences in a new and meaningful way, relaying a serious message, but in an authentic, I suppose, in a fun way itself.
Thank you, Stephen. And it gives me a bit of confidence to hear that, because I have tried to grow some tomatoes and failed miserably. So now I know it wasn't my fault, but it's due to soil degradation.
Exactly.
That's my takeaway from today. I just wanted to see also, how do you feel brands see the metaverse? Do they sort of see it as this way of connecting with the really young audiences like Gen Zs and maybe even Gen Alphas?
Well, I think from personal experience, if my home life is anything to go by, and as a father of two Gen Alphas, witnessing the amount of time they spend on Roblox, the online gaming platform, then yes, certainly the metaverse is a way to engage with them. I do believe, though, that brands see the metaverse as an opportunity to connect with Gen Z on their preferred platforms and in ways that resonate with digital lifestyles. So by establishing a presence in the metaverse, which brands are doing, brands can create interactive and engaging experiences and go beyond traditional advertising methods. I suppose this includes virtual events, branded virtual spaces, which we're starting to hear more about, in-game advertising, Heinz and Actimel, both brands I'm sure everyone here is aware of, being just two examples of brands with a presence in the gaming arena. And there are also collaborations with popular metaverse platforms and influencers that other brands are taking advantage of. However, I think it is worth noting that the appeal of the metaverse extends beyond just, say, Gen Z and also Gen Alpha, as we've just mentioned. Rather like, if we chart back a good few years now, rather like Facebook at launch and its quick uptake by millennials, one suspects that Gen Z will be the early adopters in this space. However, having said all of that, people of various age groups are increasingly participating in virtual communities and exploring virtual environments. So I believe that brands see the metaverse as a way to reach a broader range of audiences and adapt to the evolving sort of digital landscape, if that's what you want to call it.
Thank you. And I would say that probably judging by the representation of our panelists who also spend quite a bit of time in these communities, then I do see that none of them look like Gen Alphas or even Gen Zs. So we probably do get a fair representation of all ages. Great. Here I just want to pivot a little bit from communities to channels. And I have a question for Ollie. Why do you think has the metaverse, a concept with this vast potential for amazing immersive digital experiences and interconnected virtual worlds, not generated the same level of excitement and public discourse as AI? Do you think is it, because as humankind, we are so fascinated by artificial intelligence and, robots taking over the world, or is there, some other factors at play?
I think there are some other factors at play. I mean, for me, whereas the metaverse is an evolution of how we engage with sort of digital and virtual worlds, and I think that's something that's happening gradually. And I think the hype of last year was ahead of the reality. Doesn't mean it was wrong. It just means it was describing where we might be going. So if you kind of go beyond the world of gaming, you go, is there a huge amount of people inhabiting virtual worlds that you can reach in the metaverse? No, at the moment, no. But I think it's, gaming has a lot of metaverse-like experiences. And from looking at that, we can get excited about the future. I think with AI, we have quite a different category of innovation going on. I think it's one where it's further reaching, it's faster moving, and it's having an impact right now. And so I think that's why it has. So I think there is also a certain element of, the frisson of danger and the headlines that it's an existential threat, and the fact that it is really, it's permeated all sorts of culture. I think whereas metaverse is a little bit of a media and technology sideshow, we get stories of people who are using it to help do their kids' homework and people who are using it in all sorts of imaginative ways in everyday life. I think the applications and the reach of AI is going to have a bigger impact faster than the metaverse. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean the metaverse goes away. It just means that, they're both happening in parallel and one's happening faster than the other. And I think, we will be, for me, I think AI is a bit more like the early days of the internet, where it's actually a fundamental shift in the whole operating system of our digital lives, and we'll see it plugging into more and more of what we do. And we will see it being a lot more far-reaching, whereas I think the metaverse will be a bit more gradual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you. Stephen, do you have anything to contribute to that?
Yeah, I think, and then there are a number of brands that have started dipping more than just their toe into the metaverse. I'm thinking of some of the brands, and a great example probably is L'Oreal with their Gravitas campaign. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. And they've deployed this across a site called platform, shall I say, called Ready Player Me, which is a platform which allows users to explore virtual worlds with one consistent identity where avatars can be used across more than sort of 6,000 compatible apps and games. There's Roblox, as I mentioned earlier, and there's Zapito, which is a new one to me, which is a South Korean mobile app. So they're getting involved in all of these different areas. So L'Oreal have launched their campaign as such. L'Oreal have launched 5 new virtual hairstyles, which metaverse gamers can choose from, providing more opportunities for them to fully express themselves in the metaverse. So I think what's important here is that these virtual hairstyles appear to have been launched with an eye towards interoperability or the capability for virtual identities as such to remain consistent across multiple platforms, which has been a problem. According to L'Oreal, and this is a sort of stat I found in one of their press releases, this cross-platform deal that they've put together will make the 5 new virtual hairstyles accessible to around 234 million players, which is an impressive stat in itself. So I certainly think brands are involving themselves, but they're probably a long way of realizing the true potential and what that actually means.
Yeah, that's quite a reach for hairstyles.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And what do you think are some of the main concerns and hesitations that some other brands have that prevent them from embracing these channels? Is it just brands being conservative, or there's some genuine risks?
Look, I really, honestly, I think there are a whole host of concerns that brands will have. This will probably be a checklist which will have been sort of formulated from previous experiences when entered sort of new uncharted arenas or channels which haven't previously used. First and foremost, ROI and financial viability. So am I going to get a decent return on the budget that I invest? That's first and foremost. In terms of audience reach and relevance, am I reaching the right audience? And in what sort of numbers are they coming to the platform? Is this channel scalable? What is the long-term sustainability? The key one, we talk about sort of brand safety all the time, is brand reputation and image. Is this a brand safe environment? So, examples, take YouTube and Facebook as examples of where this has not always been the case and well documented. Has this channel, been stress tested yet in terms of brand safety? Users can become the creators of the content. So what are the safety guidelines in place? Is my IP as a brand, for example, safe, or a creator safe? There's the obvious what the operational technical challenges involved, and in terms of measurements, is there robust measurement performance metrics in place, and analytics? Is it transparent? How can I measure the bang for my buck, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Oliver, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of those points, and I think it's one where at this stage, I think there's a lot of, cautiously learning by doing. At the moment, there are things where you go, even if the audience numbers aren't quite there, or it's an unproven channel, if you're doing that intentionally as a way to test and learn and understand what potential is there, but also what doesn't work, so you can, wait and see and learn from it. I think there's a lot of things people can do around it cautiously, but as with all early channels and early tools, and we see similar things with AI as well, is often there's it's a while for brand safety and privacy and data and all of those things to catch up to the level that other channels are. And that's not necessarily a reason to not use it. It's just a reason to be more careful and more mindful while you are using those channels.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like certainly a lot of things to think about before you sort of dive in. But also sounds like there's great potential and can really reach audiences in a completely new way, which sort of presents those completely unique engagement opportunities. Of course, that would also mean that if a brand chooses to use some of these channels for advertising, they would need to think about creating a cohesive ad journey across all of the channels. Are brands really prepared for it? Is there any particular things that they would need to focus on when they're thinking about it? Konstantin, can I address this question to you, see what you're thinking about it?
Sure, yeah. Well, my thoughts aligned with what Oliver and Steven mentioned previously, but I can concentrate on more technical aspects. So definitely to achieve this cohesive ad journey, brands need to think about like several things. Yeah. First, start with data. Yeah. So there is a challenge bring to get the data from different sources to create this consistent message. Once you get data, you need cross-channel attribution. You need actually create a framework to assess the impact of each channel on the customer journey and allocate resources effectively. You also need create audience segmentation, yeah, how to get and utilize this data-driven insights to tailor the message and create assets specific to particular custom segments. Also, it's all about marketing automation, yeah, many channels, lots of specific capabilities in each of them. You need to find a way to automate the routine work you're performing every day, yeah, how to optimize placements, how to do optimization on bids, how you create reporting in timely manner. That's all about it. And also technology integrations, yeah, integrating different marketing technologies to facilitate seamless data flow in real time. That's also a challenge. And the final one, it could be analytics eventually, yeah, robust analytics. You need a trustworthy analytics setup to measure campaigns performance, identify trends and gaps, and to make data-driven decisions for further optimization. So some brands are partially covering those, some are just on their way to do this, but this eventually everybody need to think and cover to some degree to create this cohesive journey, I would say.
And Konstantin, what's your view on using AI and the power of AI to help here? How do you think this could be done?
Yeah, absolutely. AI can definitely lend a helping hand here. AI power lies in its ability to analyze massive amount of data, spot patterns, and make data-driven decisions eventually. So AI can assist in audience segmentation, targeting, and personalization. By crunching these numbers and analyzing customer behavior, AI algorithms can ensure that the right message reaches the right people at the right time and through the most efficient channels. So as a result, by leveraging AI, brands can gain valuable insights into customer behavior and optimize ad placements accordingly. So it's like, you know, having a smart assistant that guides brands towards their most efficient and effective marketing communication. So definitely.
Yeah, thank you. And Oliver, what's your view on it? How can we use AI to create this sort of more cohesive, unified journeys across all channels?
So, I mean, AI covers a huge amount of different sort of features and tools, and so I think it can play a role in lots of different parts of the journey. So, you know, I think generative AI allows us a whole new ways of creating assets and outputs that can help kind of join up that journey. And then I think AI decisioning behind the scenes again can help, you know, track and see where people are going along the journey as well. So helping make sure that the data journey adds up, and using that to, you know, get to better insights and better understanding. And you know, that one of the sort of features of AI is that it's, you know, continually working away in the background almost. You know, it can be doing stuff that previously you'd either need to do manually or wouldn't get done because it requires someone to be monitoring and looking at things. So there's a potential for it to be doing all sorts of things behind the scenes, which I think are really interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, now that we've moved on to AI, and obviously that being the hot topic still of the media, let's focus a little bit more on it and see how it could actually contribute to real business outcomes. In 2022, Group M has estimated that there is $1.3 trillion in ad revenue that could go towards AI-enabled advertising in the next 10 years. It's a lot of money. I think we are all sitting here wondering how we can get our hands on some of that $1.3 trillion. I know I am. Oliver, question to you. As an agency, what are some of the ways that AI can be applied? Obviously, we all know about the generative AI capabilities on text and image generation, but what are some of the more exciting possibilities that AI unlocks beyond these more obvious use cases?
Yeah, I mean, I think the tools of generative AI and the ability of particularly of sort of large language models and what they can kind of open up to us really applies to the entire kind of creative media distribution process. So I think it can help derive better insights up front, you know, in the synthesizing information, in the understanding existing data and finding new and interesting angles to go, you know, form a strategy around or build an audience profile around, and sort of so bringing that to life, building a strong foundation for a campaign. It can help with all of that. So it can help, yeah, synthesize, analyze, and understand the data. Then it's good at doing, you know, exploration of, you know, strategic directions, of creative concepts, of, you know, ways of activating ideas. And then you can use it to kind of craft and refine copy, images, but also it can do generative audio, generative video is emerging. So some of these are coming. But what is particularly interesting is when that all kind of comes together, is it allows you to do better, you know, combining together different components to make new ads that will let you do personalization at a whole new scale, but personalization of content that is truly personal and is, you know, intelligently personal, rather than DCO swapping out different assets. You can more fundamentally change and adapt and tailor assets. It means you could do things like personalized audio. Means you could, instead of, you have digital and social assets where you have 100 or 1,000 different audio assets that are using, you know, generative voice to create, you know, voiceovers in different languages or with different endings or with personalized aspects to them. And so it opens up a whole new category of advertising in terms of how personal we can get with it, how specific we can get with it, how reactive we can be with it. And also it just closes the gap between idea and execution, which I think is really exciting as well. So you can come up with something and execute it in a whole new way as well. And that I think is another, you know, it's, for me, a big part of how you optimize and get to better work is around variance and velocity. So how many different variants you trying, which is where, you know, an AI powered generative tool can help you try many different things. And then velocity is testing and learning faster. And I think if you have those two things kind of working together, you can get to a different type of advertising and a different type of effectiveness through doing that.
And as you said in the beginning, we are sort of at the very beginning of this journey, right? With AI, kind of like in the early days of the internet, and probably so many new capabilities are still going to be discovered or created. It's very exciting. But of course, there is also predictive AI that's been around for years, and a lot of the brands have and agencies have used it quite successfully. Konstantin, I wanted to come to you with this question. So what are some of the capabilities of predictive AI that agencies can take advantage of?
Yeah, sure. Well, predictive AI offers a bunch of valuable capabilities for agencies. And basically, it's all around the data-driven insights based on historical data. So predicting outcomes to optimize campaigns and resource allocation. It can also help with audience targeting. So how to utilize data to shape the audience and determine the specific campaigns for which this audience apply the best. Yeah. Campaign optimization in flight, like real-time insights to optimize ad placements, shift budgets across campaigns or line items, define the best bidding strategies to automate the routine processes for campaign managers, and adjust creatives. And also very important, risk mitigation. So identify and mitigate the potential fraud and bot behavior through data analysis. So definitely it still changes the game, and despite the fact that generative is still on everyone's like minds.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And as you know, as we go back to generative AI, what are some of the potential areas where it can contribute to raising the effectiveness and innovation in the creative process? Stephen, what's your view on that? I think you're muted, Stephen, sorry.
I think you're right. I am muted. Hopefully you can hear me now. I think Oliver's obviously covered off already a lot of the sort of applications of AI within an agency, so I don't want to dwell too much on it. But obviously, generative AI involves the creation of new content such as text, images, or videos, as we've sort of already discussed. So, you know, it's going to assist with content creation, I suppose, copy, generating copy, headlines, descriptions, visuals, videos, based on those predefined parameters that we've talked about. And it allows advertisers to produce, I suppose, large volumes of creative and content at scale, which is key. There's a personalization again, which Oliver has touched on. So, you know, there's going to be AI can create, or generative AI can create personalized ad variations. So we talked about sort of the ending of an ad may be different for, you know, all sort of four of us on this call, dependent on the data that's held, our likes, dislikes, what we're looking for. I suppose A/B testing again is absolutely key. So, you know, which messages resonate best with the person I'm trying to target, and it allows me as an advertiser to sort of optimize those campaigns accordingly. And another relevant area, especially when talking about brands in the metaverse, is game content generation. So generative AI can be employed to generate various elements of gaming content, such as levels, characters, textures, and sound effects. So this allows for the automatic creation of unique and diverse content for video games. So I think that's particularly interesting for brands that are want to get involved in that particular space.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like, you know, there's so many opportunities, and most of them are to do with, you know, raising the effectiveness due to this ability of AI to handle these really large volumes of data really quickly, and, you know, sort of taking over some of the more routine and repetitive tasks. But Ollie, this one is for you. So do you think that, you know, there will soon come a time where AI transcends this original capabilities and becomes, you know, kind of almost more human in its approach, where it's able to navigate some ambiguous situations or understand some more nuanced human needs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in quite a lot of cases, it's already there. So I think, you know, what we've got at the moment is we've got sort of artificial narrow intelligence that can do specific things, but very, very well. And so I think in terms of, you know, navigating ambiguity and understanding, you know, sensitive areas and some of those things in the right circumstances, I think it can already definitely do that. And I do think the rate of improvement and the rate of change we're having in AI is faster. Whereas in the world of, you know, VR and the metaverse, I think there are quite a lot of, you know, technical hardware challenges that mean that actually the rate of change is slower than the vision. I think, you know, the speed of improvement and the type of improvement you got with GPT-4 and then other similar language models that have come out around the same time. And that's through kind of human reinforcement learning. So, you know, you create a language model and then people talk to it, and as people use it, it learns better. We're already steering it to get better at understanding ambiguity. You know, the millions of conversations happening with these models right now are all learning points that it's learning it to think in a different way. But for me, what's interesting is there's a point where it will sort of transcend. I mean, it's already there really, in that it operates in a way that humans don't, and we don't really understand quite how it works. Gary Kasparov wrote about it in Deep Thinking, when, you know, he was beaten in the 90s by Deep Blue. You know, you're the world's best at something, and a computer demonstrates it's better than you on a global stage. We're now going to have that happen to all of us on a whole load of different things. And, you know, you won't necessarily, it's not because they think like us but better, it's because it's well, to an extent it thinks, it operates in a whole different way. And that is both exciting and daunting. Like, you know, we don't quite know how it operates. And that means you have to be really careful and scrupulous around if it makes a recommendation that seems to be the right one, you don't really know why it made that recommendation. And that's where you need to sort of check your homework and try and figure out exactly what it is that it's doing. So I definitely think it's exciting times. And I think we are probably further ahead and faster than we expected. I won't talk about sort of general super intelligence or whatever, but the fact that actually we've got to where we are now is for some further and faster than we expected to be.
Yeah. Well, that's absolutely. Stephen, what about you and Konstantin? Do you have something to contribute to that? Some thoughts? Stephen, you're muted again.
So obviously new to this. So I think another, if we take an example of sort of how AI as such is breaking out of routine and repetitive tasks. So there's an AI tool named the Uncreative Agency, which is a brainchild of Creative Agency, DDB. So the initiative itself invited users to submit a short one-sentence brief, and after which the tool would generate a unique creative proposal in minutes with no human interaction and obviously zero budget attributed to it. So they picked up with this initiative 12,000 users in the first 5 days after launch, with 2 creative proposals being created every minute. Whilst I think DDB admits that the product itself is still very much in its infancy, with ideas produced unlikely to revolutionize the creative process, what the tool does is it signifies the pivotal role that AI will play sort of over the coming years and maybe before that time. So AI output at the moment, I think it's still slightly random. However, if we listen to it and we brainstorm with it, great creativity, I think, can be born out of that, what is termed as randomness at the moment.
So like we can say that AI is not a substitute for human creativity. It's like it can augment the decision-making process and unlock new effectiveness. That's what we as a community need to aim for.
The mind and machine, isn't it? Okay, great. Thank you so much for these insights. I would love to speak a little bit about the ethical concerns surrounding AI. Some obviously, some predict it will improve the human experience. Others say it's already upending geopolitics and call it existential risk. What is your take on how we might ensure responsible and accountable AI use that prioritizes the well-being of individuals and society as a whole? Ollie, I know this is a topic of particular passion for you, so let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a sort of set of quite diverse different risks that you've got kind of around the area. Some of them are kind of obvious. So, there's people trying to use them intentionally to do bad things. So, it's a lot of the tools are a scammer's delight. You can clone, a family member, your boss, or someone else, their voice, and you can phone someone up and pretend to be ransoming them, or, of saying you need their bank details for an urgent something. And so there's a lot of like unethical and risky problems that it immediately opens just around that side of it. But then there's a lot of stuff that's a bit more subtle, and we need to be aware of some of the limitations of the tools. So unconscious bias, the tools are only as good as the data set it's got, and generally the data set it's learned from tends to be biased from the point of view of representation. So if you ask an image generation tool to generate me a creative director, it will generally generate a white man. Or if you say, show me a room full of strategists, it'll be a room full of white men. And so you need to actively overcome and work against sort of the embedded bias. And the challenge being, as people, we all have our own bias as well, but we can be aware of our own bias, or, try to become more aware of our own bias. You don't really know what bias is baked into your AI learning models. And so it's hard then to fix that. And so that kind of like, responsible use is more difficult because properly understanding what it's actually doing and why it's doing it is, again, harder to explain. So some of the ways to do it, I think one is, having safeguards in place, having a diverse committee of people working with the tools, having human plus machine in the approvals process. By and large, I don't think any, generative outputs should be put out there from an AI without having humans involved and checking, and that's going to be good practice. And then, there are, again, the people building the tools are trying to solve a lot of these problems as well. So some of the issues around copyright and IP, and whether whether your model is copying or incorrect. So GPT models can often make things up, whereas image generation can create stuff that inadvertently looks like someone else's style, and so it could be a copyright infringement or an IP issue. Those are all kind of known problems that are being worked on, but at the moment you just need to be cautious. So, if you're doing it from a company point of view, work with your legal team, understand your and your client's perspectives on it, and there will be different kind of points of view there. And it's a common sense with some added scrutiny on top, just because they're new tools and they're going to be a bit more unfamiliar. So there are definitely risks, but there's risks with all tools. Tools can be used well and badly. You can create offensive images with Photoshop. You can create scams with Photoshop. Doesn't mean you don't use Photoshop, but you try and make sure that people use it responsibly. And I think you get a very similar thing here with AI tools.
Absolutely. Stephen, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I echo a lot of what Oliver's said. I obviously think privacy and data protection. So is the information I'm sharing secure, and can it be used to target me in a negative way? Again, Oliver's touched on this. How is accountability and transparency actually factored in? So who and what is accountable, and will we be able to see, I suppose, measure transparency, and what will that look like? So will there be an arbiter for complaints, an ombudsman of AI, so to speak, and with questions around fairness? We talk about human oversight and control. So who has the set of master keys to this black box? I think really we need to make sure that AI is an enabler, helping people to do their jobs and stripping out many of the mundane tasks. Undoubtedly, there'll be some roles that don't exist. I heard somewhere that they said sort of paralegals, there won't be any need for paralegals anymore. Whether that's going to be the case or not, I don't know. But I think on the flip side, we will evolve, and out of AI, there will be new jobs or roles that will be created. In the workplace, certainly, I think training for employers on how to use AI correctly is paramount through the input of their prompts. And that's actually key to safety and producing positive outcomes. As I said, I think safety and security is absolutely paramount. So to sort of name drop a few people, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Stephen Hawking, and Stuart Russell have all warned about the power of AI and its potential effects, and or sort of ending of the human race. That's obviously but all of stress the need for safeguards and keeping it out of the hands of what obviously they term bad actors. So undoubtedly there will be the equivalent, I think, of an arms race in the AI space, but let's hope that we can all use it wisely.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And really interesting point you're mentioning, Stephen, around, creation of new jobs, because that has been, and I think, especially in marketing advertising space, there's been so much speculation of what this will mean. And I tend to fully agree with you with these kind of technological advancements. There's always a bit of a scare in the beginning, but then actually it creates more opportunities than it takes away. Already I hear that the new hot job is a prompt engineer. So there we go. Maybe we'll be hiring those soon. All right. So I have a final question in this panel conversation. And I just want to reflect back on this transformative potential of AI within the advertising and marketing industries. It's certainly no longer a question of whether it will change the industry, but when and to what extent. Oliver, as someone who is within the world of advertising agencies, how can an agency ensure the smooth and successful transition to adopt AI in their processes widely?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at an early phase, but I think it's also going to happen quite quickly. So I think a lot of the main thing that's holding us back from adopting more of these tools are not the strength of the tools themselves, but it's the logistics, it's the legals, it's the governance. All of those things are being solved. So it's having a safe, responsible, enterprise level access to an image generator and a language model. I think will be coming, will be very achievable within 3 months. At the moment it's a little bit scrappy because how you access the tools in a consistent way is kind of tricky. So I think preparing for that and preparing for a lot of these tools being baked into stuff we already work with, all Microsoft and Google tools are going to have more and more AI baked into them. So whether we like it or not, there's going to be AI in your PowerPoint. There's going to be AI in all of your Google Suite tools. So, learning now helps prepare you for that time when that is more mainstream. And then I think it's about properly reflecting on your current workflow and understanding how these tools can help. I think, if we just do stuff the way we've always done it, and actually a bit more introspection on going, okay, well, what's the actual process that we do? Which bits of that would be better if we involved the AI? So rather than just going, AI, do my whole job for me, it's going, okay, I'm going to work with the AI intentionally at each different point of my process. And so I think that kind of looking at the workflow, looking at the process and understanding when and how it could be helping, and then learning and piloting and intentionally training yourself. I think we'll all need to be sort of mini prompt engineers, and agencies will start to have their own prompt libraries and their own IP around how good are we at working with AI, and do we have our own custom AI tools. All of that I think is something that lots of agencies and holding companies are working on at the moment, and I think that's where it will be heading, but not in a see you in a couple of years time, but I think see you in a couple of months. I think a lot of that will be coming together.
Wow. Okay, the speed of change is pretty amazing. Konstantin, what do you think about this? What can agencies do to ensure this smooth transition period?
Yeah, definitely can partially co-echo Oliver in the regard that definitely there should be a focus on developing user-centric and friendly AI tools that are smoothly integrated in current business workflows of agencies of all sizes. So it will be understandable and easy for users to actually utilize these capabilities. And this also relates to agencies investing in fostering and upskilling the workforce of there, and actually investing in these AI-related fields to educate their employees. And also getting any opportunity to partner with AI technology provider to incorporate the latest and the most modern and sophisticated technology to your organization. Another third option, and eventually addressing the ethical concerns surrounding AI and ensuring that their development is done in a responsible and transparent way. So to further drive the adoption across the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for answering all of my questions, and I've thoroughly grilled you on metaverse and AI. So thank you very much for that. We have got a few questions from the audience as well, so I would love to ask those to you all. So first of all, we have got a question around privacy governance and how can AI help with that. Are there any takers, or should I pick on one of you?
I mean, so from my point of view, there are some quite smart ways that you can encode, different kind of rules and guidelines into AI that then you have an ever-present person, agent looking out for privacy and checking that things have been followed in the right process. So in terms of, brand guardianship and protecting the brand, but also looking at data hygiene and data privacy. an AI assistant can help automate and speed up that process, so that rather than having to manually look at and review processes, you can have an AI doing the bulk of it, with then a human sort of overseeing and checking on a couple of key additional cases. So for me, I think there's definitely slightly different but related. I've seen some quite interesting tools that look at outputs and can assess whether it's fit for platform, brand safe, follows the follows brand guidelines, are the logos the right size, is the color, and you can encode all of your brand guidelines into every asset that goes out. So, and that's something that you can do with a human, but it just works much better if you can do it where it's something automated that's done by an AI platform and machine vision. And I think you can do similar things around privacy governance.
Yeah, thank you. Konstantin, Stephen, do you have anything to add to that around privacy governance?
I don't have anything to add. I think Oliver's covered that off quite nicely. Konstantin, I'm not too sure whether you...
agree. I'm about to take the second one.
Sure. Well, let's go to the second one. Konstantin, this one I think is a good one for you. What amount of historical data is needed for predictive AI? Yeah,
it's a great question, a great example that simple questions cannot be answered directly and in this sphere, unfortunately. So it all depends. It depends upon use case. It depends upon the consistency of data that we are having. So in a nutshell, predictive AI can make a decision based on just 2 data points to create a plain line. But if we were expecting it, we are expecting to have more sophisticated and precise results. The more data, the better. That's what my fellow engineers are usually saying. So it depends upon a flow and use cases. Sometimes when, I'm recalling my latest experience when we were making the prediction for best bid to place for advertising campaigns, and usually we end up with several weeks for some line items. Sometimes we were it was enough just one day to have some predictions. So again, it depends, I would answer. But in general, the AI can already start doing some predictions based on the minimum amount of data. The more data, the more precise will be the recommendations, I would say.
Thank you. Question to Oliver. Do you use generative AI at scale, or are you in a testing stage right now?
With generative images, we're at the testing stage. I think there are still some quality and legal and overall process kind of things that we're sort of looking at around that. I think Adobe Firefly, will potentially allow for a lot of that to kind of come together a lot quicker, and some of the sort of generative fill features are really impressive and interesting. And so I think there's a quote from the CEO of NVIDIA where I think he said that in the future every pixel will be generated and not rendered. And so I think not too long there will be some form of AI manipulation of almost every output. In terms of text, for narrower things like email subject lines, short form copy, copy in sort of digital creative, that can be done more at scale at the moment, and that's probably the best, easiest use case is using it on a language basis at the moment. Although again, some of the baking the tools into a workflow consistently is something that's still not 100% there, but that's much closer to being done properly at scale.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. That is all the questions that we have received so far, and we're nearly out of time. So actually, I'm going to take some time to just summarize a few of the key takeaways today before we close this webinar. So some of the things that we have discussed today were around Metaverse and Web3 are still very much here. And although the media buzz around them has subsided, they still represent significant opportunities for brands to connect with hard-to-reach audiences. In these times when consumers are looking for meaningfulness and social impact from brands, these platforms are available and can provide vast opportunities for hyper-personalization. But beware of keeping your ad journey consistent and authentic. These platforms are not only populated by the young, Gen Zs and Alphas. People of various age groups are increasingly participating in online communities and exploring virtual environments, and the appeal of these will only grow. AI can, of course, be of help. and allow advertisers and agencies significantly increase their effectiveness. It offers much richer use cases than just the text and image generation, and can do things like analyze data, provide user segmentation, analyze behaviors, optimize campaigns, and many more. However, the transition to becoming an AI-enabled agency is not a straightforward one, and help from a knowledgeable partner can be a game changer, creating tools and no-code platforms, sharing cross-industry expertise, and ensuring ethical and regulation-approved practices. So I want to thank all of you, Oliver, Konstantin, Stephen, for sharing your expertise today, for giving your opinions and even some predictions for the future. I want to thank our audience for joining us today. I hope that you all found this webinar insightful and actionable. If you enjoyed it and would like to access more content from STAR, please follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to our newsletter on www.star.global, or connect with any of us on LinkedIn. We will also circulate key takeaways from this webinar together with the Q&A in the next couple of days. Thank you all so much, and I hope you all have a lovely day. Take care.
Thank you all.
you.
Take care.
Thank you.